Advanced philosophy memes. We have made good memes. Advanced philosophy memes. Base fucking memes. Advanced philosophy memes. We have made good memes. Advanced philosophy memes. Base fucking memes. Shoutouts to Andreas, Deacon, my boy Scott, Pedro, and everyone else that engages on my posts. And Sarah, keep it up, man. You'll get there someday. And everyone else from Great Memes.
I was trying to find that early bird song.
Early
Oh wait,
birds.
here it is. Hold on. We have chat now on the video. Did you see that?
Yeah, I see it in the bottom right. That's pretty sick. That's pretty baller.
Yeah, dude, the world's getting to be so much more efficient. Oh, how you been? What are you up to today? You working?
Yeah, it's just a normal Wednesday. It's hump day. Tomorrow's payday. Looking forward to that. I got to clean my apartment later, but standard shit. How are you doing? You been all right?
I'm pretty good. I'm a little exhausted. Like time zone flipping is hard. You know, I feel like it's easier just to like keep traveling so that if you're awake at the wrong part of the day, then you just go to a place where it's the right part of the day.
Yeah.
And then by the time you screw up your schedule, you just travel again, and then you should be fine.
Yeah, I look at it like what really keeps a person sane, especially if you're really active with stuff in life, is a routine. And when you're traveling a lot, it's hard to set routine unless traveling becomes your routine. So it's like, on one hand, you could make it work, but on the other hand, it's like, it's a lot of energy output. Or
Yeah, I feel like sometimes you have bad routines too. So if you're traveling, you can't get stuck back in your bad habits because you're constantly trying to explore a new surrounding. And by the time you are comfortable with a place, then you can stay up late. You can get up too late. You can be up all night. You know, all of a sudden, all the things that you shouldn't be doing. You know, eating wrong, whatever it is.
yeah,
being
maybe it's
lethargic.
not so much like good habits or bad habits, but it's like if you don't choose your own habits, then like they're going to be decided for you by like someone's going to hijack your consciousness and be like, hey, this is your new habit. You like this now. You like scrolling through Shein at like 2 a.m. for hours and hours.
Oh man, yeah, you gotta be careful with that. Or like AI art, as I think the new window shopping, because you can just create pictures over and over again forever. That seems to be what's happening to me.
Yeah, I'm just gonna consciously choose to smoke crack instead. You know, I think that's gonna be, at least I chose that instead of like getting hijacked or something by politics.
But you know, when you're on vacation because you don't have a schedule, I mean, is it maybe that I just have better traveling habits? Is that what that is? Like, because when I travel, all of a sudden I have fewer things. They're in like a smaller backpack. I'm going places with them.
That sounds like wisdom brought from experience. You know, most people don't really travel that often. Most people kind of stay in one spot for most of their life. But if you do it over and over and over again, you're eventually going to be like, yeah, you know, make sure you stand in line behind the Asians. They seem to get through the lines faster. Or, you know, make sure you take your shit off before you get to the thing, all that stuff.
Yeah, I've noticed if I'm in a place for like a month or something, then I start to get too comfortable. Basically, I should probably switch places every month.
Damn.
Kind of like a nomad or something, you know?
Yeah. I thought about living like that. It's just I have a cat. You know, when I wasn't working remotely, I had this cat, and then I started working remotely and I still have this cat, which, you know, I don't mind. I just want to give the cat a good life, a stable life.
That's cool. Yeah, cats seem to find stability no matter what, I think. So maybe I'm missing something.
No, I
But
mean,
isn't
this
that
is
the
why
whole point? They land on their feet, you know?
yeah, this is why we have to always talk to each other, because I figure shit out through just staying still in solitude, and you figure shit out just by being everywhere. So maybe we kind of balance each other out that way. Uh-oh, I think you froze. No, Andreas is froze. Oh, there you go.
I'm back. Sorry.
It looked like what I said just like broke your brain. I'm like, what? Wait, what happened?
Just complete.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So it's like pretty early for America right now, huh? It's like before noon or something. It's like it's afternoon in New York, right?
Yeah, it's still like relatively early enough, I guess. Not quite early morning, like rush hour.
Yeah, it's weird 'cause at the end of the day, it's really easy to do a show because you can talk about all the things that have happened today. But at the beginning of the day, things are just starting to happen. So you have everything that happened yesterday, and there's just all sorts of contemporaneous events. But is that the best thing to do with a morning show, is to talk about the news? I mean, because it's easy to talk about things going on the East right now. Obviously, you can talk about things in Russia or something. I don't know. Like, what's the value of a morning show? Are they almost always news shows? Or so I feel like in the old days it was like news shows and then it was daytime talk shows, right? Is there a reason you think it is that way? That the morning shows are the news shows and then the talk shows are the midday shows? Is it just lives? You know?
I mean, just as a podcaster myself, like I kind of figured it out like embarrassingly late, because like I've always wanted to add some kind of structure or formatting to the episodes. I was like, how do I do this? Like, what do I even talk about when it's time? Like, do we just have a politics segment, a culture segment? But then I was like, let me just apply like tarot principles. You know, each suit represents a different facet of life, like pentacles for material concerns, swords for philosophical, intellectual concerns, and I think it was cups for emotional and spiritual, and wands for creativity and manifesting. So if they're 2-hour episodes, I just divide them into 30-minute blocks. I was like, all right, this time we're going to talk about material shit. Like, how are you doing, man? How's your life? How's your home life? And then I move on to like, what do you make of this person's actions? Like, you know, how does it make you feel? Do you think he was justified? And, you know, kind of just cycle through it. And I think with evening shows, you start with one and then you work your way to the other ones. But then in the mornings, it's just the same thing, but inverted. Like, you start with reflection, just like how you start your morning showers, reflecting on shit. And then you start going about your day. It's like kind of the same vibe for me, you know?
Is it true also? I mean, what are your hours? Do you get up in the morning and sleep at night, or are you like a 3-hour sleeper, or?
It really depends. On mostly I just have to like be at my computer in my house for like at 10 a.m. till 5 p.m. And then after that, it's just whatever. I could do whatever I want.
Oh, speaking of David Koresh, just kidding. Will just showed up. What's up, Will?
Hey.
Are you an insomniac, or like, because you have a family, did that change your sleeping habits and like now you sleep at night and get up in the morning, or like what's the deal with your life?
Well, for a while I was working I think I clocked in at 6. And so I was waking up at like 5:30 every morning. Lately I've had insomnia for the last couple of nights. It's funny that you mentioned that, but right now, like, no, I mean, I don't even have a job right now. I'm like self-employed.
Sweet.
So I wake up at like 8, go to bed at like 10.
Why? So you get up at 8 because that's your biorhythm, or you go to bed at 10 because there's nothing good on television? Like, what's the reason that your sleeping pattern is the way it is?
Because I want to go to bed when my wife goes to bed.
Okay, so yeah.
Then I don't know. I can't stay in bed past 10. I don't know if you guys, like when I was a teenager, I could sleep late. Now I don't sleep late any longer. Like it's hard for me to sleep during the day. I can take naps during the day, but I don't like sleeping in the mornings.
I think one of the biggest problems with contemporary living is now that everyone's working more sedentary jobs. It's when you come home, you're still packed with physical energy, but you're drained of mental energy, and I think that could lead to some like long-term messed up effects. People.
I just remember traffic sucking, and I used to think the best time to sleep is when everyone's at work, you know, because they've got it. You know, most people have taken care of the world for those hours. You know that 9 to 5 in the daylight, the creeps will not be ruling the earth, or maybe at least there's light shining on it, and then you can take care of the serious stuff. You know, there's less traffic now. There's less people watching. There's no lifeguards at the post. Just be awake all night long. I guess that's like also a generational thing. Certain people, depending on how old their parents are, like, will stay awake all night for the elderly, so that the elderly are protected, and then the elderly get up really early in the morning, and then they have, you know, 5 o'clock in the morning. But then it depends, I guess, on which generation you are and your connection to them, because some people literally just are supposed to be awake in the tribe, while others, there's hours and rounds. You know, different people will do different hours in the tribe. Basically, I wonder
Yeah.
about that.
A lot of my car friends are like only active at night. Like they'll meet up at the coffee spots at like odd hours, and then they'll stay out till like sunrise, and then in the morning they still have like blue collar day jobs. I'm like, you guys are crazy.
Dude, isn't it daylight savings time soon also? There's something like that coming up, right? November 2nd is the daylight savings time. It's about to hit. You can feel it. You know who started daylight savings time? Who proposed that idea?
It was some
Reagan,
historical
wasn't
figure
it?
or
Or was it
farmer.
right before Reagan? It was Nixon.
Bro, it was way before Nixon. It was Benjamin Franklin.
Oh yeah, that's right. But it wasn't. When was it installed?
Oh, good question. Is it really that recent? Is it
Because
really
I read
from?
this whole book about like the whole aspect of time has been a really confusing thing for humans, like forever, because there's no uniformity through the year on how long the day or nights are, and that issue has like that, and including with the whole leap year idea, has screwed any hope of, like actually having a formulated timekeeper for millennia.
So apparently, Benjamin Franklin suggested it in a satirical letter in the Journal de Paris in 1784. Hudson really proposed the idea in 1895.
It was just a joke, bro.
1908, yeah, and apparently because it kills people, right? So you should be careful with it. But 1908, Ontario, Canada, in Thunder Bay, was the first place to use daylight savings time. Thunder Bay, Ontario. That's pretty trippy. And then the first nationwide implementation were the Germans and Austro-Hungarian empires, starting in 1916. Many countries started adopting daylight savings time, particularly during the 1970s energy crisis. So it is kind of recent in some respect.
Yeah, I thought that the whole 1970s is when it took in the United States. I can't remember though.
So weird. Yeah, I mean, I guess also just Thunder Bay. You know,
It's just weird. So much
Jordan's
stuff changed in the
Thunder
70s. Like the whole perspective, we take it for granted because we were probably born 80s post. But like there's so much culture that changed and shift between like 1972 and 1978.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like the whole world ended or something. Like the 80s is like a totally new timeline startup with everything. The nuclear microwave in every home, right?
There's
Yeah.
just these huge things that were like a problem before, and then the later generations take for granted, it seems. Like we kind of just assume that they have always been there. But things were a lot harder, like with the microwave and things of that nature was just a lot different. I mean, you have the space shuttle in 72. You know what I mean? Like there was a whole big switch in the space program in the matter of one decade changed. But then you have the revealing of the MK Ultra, the revealing of the House Select Committee on Assassinations. Like, there was a whole bunch of paradigm shifts that happened.
There's also American music finally like making its way out like to other countries.
Absolutely.
I remember my family, like they immigrated one generation before mine, but like I think from what they were telling me, it's like shit started changing for them when they started seeing like American musicians and American bands perform and stuff. They were like, whoa, it just blew their minds.
Yeah, I used to be able to tell where a culture was by their reruns. You could say, okay, well, they're in the 70s now, or they're in the 90s now. You know, I remember 25 years ago in Croatia, they were like in the year 2000 something, 2001. They were watching syndicated television from the late 80s and early 90s, like 89 to 91. They had like Alf, and they had Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and they had Star Trek, and they were, you know, catching up. And then maybe 2012, I was in Chile, and they were watching Will and Grace, and you're like, oh my God, it's about to happen, you know? And then now everywhere you go, they're watching the same reruns on Netflix. They've all been indoctrinated into Friends, the last generation, and they're all, it's like they're all syncing up so that we're all watching the same propaganda around the world at the same time now. Like everyone
That's an
gets the
interesting
same
concept, because back in the 60s, before cable and before, you know, satellite dish, would you have like 5 channels, 4 channels?
three.
And there was
Yeah.
this weird like cohesiveness in culture. Like
Mhm.
everybody was watching the same thing. You would go into work the next day and everybody was talking about I Love Lucy. And it's really weird now, because like if you,
That's happening again.
well, I guess it kind of is on a worldwide, but as far as like Americans go, nobody's watching the same thing. Like there's no
Well,
conversations that really meet up, because there's so much media and so many different ways to get media that
Well, now it's like
most of
now you're
everybody-
subscribed. Yeah, it's what streamer you're subscribed to. It's like, are you a Netflix guy? Are you an Amazon guy? Are you an Apple Plus guy? A Disney
are you
guy?
a pirate who sees it all? Yeah.
Yeah.
It sucks because once you're a good pirate, then you realize like you really don't want to consume it all. Like basically all of the different options suck. And so watching all of it's actually worse, not better.
I've thought
Dang.
a lot about this. I mean, as a sync kid, how do you deal with that? Like, I'm not necessarily on board with people wasting their life dedicating it to movie or media. You know
You
what
know,
I'm saying?
This is a really I've actually wanted to bring this up to Andreas before, when you guys, because there's the whole like sync thing, the sync kids,
Right.
and I never really identified as a sync kid, because I feel like sync kids are more analytical about like the synchronicities they observe, and then they could like kind of cross-reference with other events. I think for me it's like I just discover shit, you know, in terms of like what the syncings are pointing to, and then I apply it. So I guess for me I'm more like a crash dummy, you know, like a syncing crash dummy kind of thing. I'll try the shit, and if it works, I'll report it, and if it doesn't, well, the only one that gets burnt is me. So
There's a lot of correlation. Like corollary is worth looking into. And it doesn't, I think the best thing about sync is it's a divorce from conspiracy theory, because when you start seeing conspiracy theory, I think that's very like an introduction to the world being made up of correlated coincidences or relationships, at least relationships between people and places and things. And the word conspiracy seems so extreme, even though everyone is friends with everyone else or enemies with everyone else. And so they all interact. And of course, the world's made up of relationships, but some things just sort of happen, and you don't have to constantly be trying to figure out why they're happening or even how they're happening. You can just say, well, look, there's all of these things that are happening in the zeitgeist, and they could be just magical. There's no reason they have to be intentionally connected. That's the conspiracy theory. You know, things are intentionally connected and they're all for a plan. But sometimes things just happen. Like I remember in 2001, there were tons of people saying, oh, well, 9/11's an inside. Well, 2002, really. 9/11 was an inside job. But whether you thought that or not, in 2001, if you watched TV, there were like 1,000 shows about the Twin Towers or plane hijackings or, you know, whatever it was. And to say that all of those were just deep state mockingbird plans takes more effort than to say, well, they're just, these things were happening. You know, people were thinking about this subconsciously.
Well,
And
I'm not even questioning the veracity of the sayings. Like, you know, like to their credit, like yes, they're like, so what if our world is like being controlled by reptilian overlords or archons that want to harvest our loosh or whatever? Like, okay, like suppose that's true. Suppose all the conspiracies or a good chunk of them, enough of them are true. Then what? Then what are you going to do? And everyone says the same shit. It's raise your consciousness. Then it's like, well, what does that even mean? Because like we could get stuck up on the hung up on the conspiracies, but then it's like once you kind of digest that, then you still got to like live your life. Like you still got to like chop wood, carry water. And it's like, how do you do that in spite of that? And I say, this is why I focus on like gratitude, for example, you know, because like all these evil forces, they can't stop you from feeling grateful. That's where the conspiracy power kind of crumbles, you know?
Well, I mean, the only reason why those in most mythologies, the archons or the reptilians are doing things to people to suck off of their emotions or feelings. So the intentional thing is to make you feel bad, to make you feel defeated. It's kind of like what the archons are harvesting, so to speak. So when you take the control of your own mentality, take the control of your own mentality and somehow pivot on your emotions, does that take the power away from them?
I think it does. I think like that's one of the reasons why you'll get a lot of pushback, not just societally, but also personally. Like when you start saying things like, I'm just grateful, I'm just going to choose to be grateful and not play the game that like a lot of people, that kind of disrupts the whole collective game, I think.
dude, I'm getting some crazy comments here. Okay, yeah. I'm just saying, like, these things are on YouTube now, so maybe behave yourself. If you want to say things about Jews and Halloween candy, which to me seems pretty outlandish, but you know what? It's your freedom. Then like go to F chat and then do the F chat, man, because it's the uncensored chat, you know. But like, clean up your act, you crazy sneak. I'm just saying. I don't know. So yeah, there's a show I saw recently, Station 11. Have you seen that show? You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-mm.
So I was watching, like, I was like, what shows talk about vaccines and viruses and all that stuff? And there was a few of them, right? I think Sweet Tooth was one. This is a show about kids who all evolve into animals. Basically, there's like a virus. It's an epidemic. The whole world goes to die, and then a few kids make it, and then some crazy dudes who start like a post-apocalyptic military place, right? That was Sweet Tooth. It was a Netflix show, and I think it came out. It came out June 2021, so it's definitely after COVID. But I think it was started based on a comic book series from Canada that was originally 2009 or something. So it's old enough that you could say, okay, well, that was something that kind of hit the vaccine culture, pandemic culture, but it was maybe like they made the show because of COVID, so it doesn't count. The one that really stuck out to me, yeah, dude, F's in the chat. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, F chat's the place to be. The one that stood out to me was this one called Stations 11, which is about like a woke lesbian theater troupe from UCSC kind of thing, like this sort of like they go around performing Shakespeare or something in the post-apocalypse after a pandemic hit. And this show came out in I want to say 2019 or something. I could be wrong. It was 2021. Okay, but the book is also from 2014. But they produced it as COVID was happening. That was the deal. So they didn't know COVID was going to happen, and it released.
Okay, so I mean, the best thing to talk about would be, and the most relevant would be Snake Eyes, right? Because Snake Eyes.
Which one?
Snake Eyes. Not the Snake Eyes G.I. Joe movie, but the Snake Eyes Brian De Palma Nick Cage movie. Because I know it's been talked about before, but its alignment with the Charlie Kirk shooting. Now, there's a lot of weird things.
Elaborate on that, yeah.
Now. There's a lot of weird things going on right now because like that movie came out in what? 2009, between 2009 2016. It's probably a teen movie.
1998. Snake Eyes is
so it's before 2000.
Yeah.
So that's a huge time gaps and relevance there. But if you watch the movie, it's pretty much undeniable. Like the word Tyler said over and over. Charlie Kirkland is the name of the guy. He's shot in the neck. It's really, really, really blatant as far as like, that's a sink. Now, here's the thing. Being in the whole sink world for a decade, I'm completely concerned that it is like, I'm completely like convinced that it's a real thing. Sync's real. But the only reason I know that is because I got into sync to study it to prove that it was real.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no way you can prove it. It's like UFOs or like knowing that 9/11 was an inside job, or you might know those things. Does it matter? And here's the weird thing, though. This Charlie Kirk thing really is a turning point. Because correct me if I'm wrong, but Candace Owens just came out and said that there was reptiles, right? Candace Owens just came out. At first, she started normalizing.
And you know she's stable, right?
No, she's not. I mean, that's the thing, though. But she's popular.
She's completely lost her mind. But you know what? Someone said this
Is
to me.
that
Like,
the psyop, though?
if you were as close as she was to Charlie, which is like a lot closer than me, and I was having a hard enough time. I've been kind of crazy, right? I can just imagine that, you know, everyone she knows, and the fact that she's like on the fritz with the Christian right, alt-right community, the Trump MAGA movement and everything, and she's basically pigeonholed herself into being a conspiracy theorist because she's gone insane.
Is she
feeling betrayed,
or is this some sort of scripted thing that she's doing? Like, is she part of the psyop? Is the whole popularization of conspiracy theory the whole purpose behind Charlie Kirk in the first place?
I think sorry.
Okay.
Please, Andreas. Well, I mean, personally, I would just think that any narrative that tries to make you feel more divided, more alienated from the rest of humanity is probably not good, regardless of, you know, what the narrative is. But I mean, that's not really speaking to the, I guess, authenticity of it. Anyway, what were you saying, Andreas?
I mean, I felt like she was mainly around to do the opposite, like to like the Charlie Kirk thing, maybe more generally, it felt like it's designed to galvanize the Turning Point kids, right? Because he was so essential to Vance being elected. He was so essential to Trump being elected because he brought them the youth vote. And so now they can cut the youth vote in half. So it's this large group won't be so big that they can't control it. And then the half that is Zionist, Ben Shapiro can control. And then the half that is suspicious of Zionism or anti-Zionist at this point, right? Anti-Semitic, they can be honeypot by Nick Fuentes, who's now on Tucker Carlson, right? So I felt like that was probably where they were lying. And then with Candace, it actually felt more legitimate because she just seems so unhinged that she lost her friend. And I don't know if you've seen her recent videos. Did you see anything that she's done recently?
I've just seen it being pushed. I saw that people were becoming aware. People that I know who Candace Owens is, and she's popularizing talking about reptiles and stuff. But I'm not even sure if that's what she says. Do you get what I'm saying?
Dang, it's interesting. I think, is it not here? Okay, it's on lives. I was like, did she remove the stream she did? Okay, so I think it was this one, Charlie's Angels or Demons video. So I don't know if you've seen this video she did yesterday. I guess it was just yesterday, and it was pretty interesting. Like, first off, you can totally imagine going insane if your friend dies and everyone around you that you thought
but it's like
trust
it's like a fucking movie script, bro. It's like something that you would see, like these fake podcasters or influencers, and one of them gets shot and then the other one goes fucking batshit crazy. It's like, what if it seems scripted? Why not consider it so?
I think what's interesting though is, regardless of, again, the authenticity, because I can't really speak on that, but you notice how like one narrative can really be taken in vastly differently. It pretty much breaks people if they really ingest it And then what comes out after you break, like that's what matters. Because I never really denied the authenticity of the syncs. In fact, the syncs scared the shit out of me. The conspiracy theories, all that stuff, I basically saw so many syncs. I was like, it scared me to the point where it broke me. It made me confront the fact that I never had power. I'm probably constantly lied to. And the truth is, as far as I know, it a lot more ephemeral than I really gave credit for. And that pretty much gave me the ontological shock, where it's like, all right, so then what's left? What do I have left as a human being on this earth who's like controlled by these crazy malicious forces? What can I possibly do? And that's what pushed me to like find, like, I guess, self-alignment, alignment of mind, body, soul. That's when you start to get spiritual. Although I have other friends who went through the same crucible of knowing, quote unquote, of syncing up, of spotting this shit, and they lost their minds. Like they completely lost all their relationships. They didn't know how to reconcile that with their everyday life, and it just completely destroyed them. And it's like, it was the same narrative being fed to both of us, it just as an example. Whereas, you might have completely different results with other people who take it seriously for just a little too long,
Candace pointed out this footage of Mikey McCoy, and Mikey McCoy is an interesting guy, and I don't necessarily think he's like a serial killer or an assassin or a psyop artist or anything, not necessarily, but that's definitely what Candace is trying to lay down with this. And it's interesting, just like the way people have been acting at Turning Point around Charlie Kirk's death, that they're so quick to have a secession line that someone's to replace him, to how they're going to keep moving the movement forward. And of course you would do that, but just the way it's presented seems pretty stressful to someone who feels like they should be in more mourning than that. And saying, oh, well, Charlie loved me, was my friend, and he referred to me as America's pastor and said, well, there's no one better to run my movement if I were to pass away. It's like these kind of weird lines that they're putting out. This is the father of Mikey McCoy, and he's talking about how there was a very clear plan for secession and they're implementing it now. And she put this footage up. I'm trying to find the spot exactly where it shows it.
Oh man,
she just does that when she gets cray. But here's this
million?
video. This video's got like 3 million views, but there's a reason. There's a reason for it. If you watch,
is that what is happening though? Is she just scraping views? Like you said, is this some sort of like algorithmic pigeonhole where it was trend to talk about conspiracy theories with Charlie Kirk because of the obviousness, nature of the event right off the bat, and it's been popularized by mainstream people who don't understand it? Or is it being co-opted? Or is it be like,
well, I think just the footage she's showing is interesting, right? Because you've got Mikey McCoy standing next to him to the side. As soon as the shot happens, you'll see it's going to be frozen for a second. As soon as the shot happens, he's on his phone, right? I'm trying to find the footage, I guess. So I'll just show you right here. Here, Mikey walks off with the phone as the event falls apart, and he has less than a second. It's like a third of a second before you see him, like from the shot to him on the phone, and then he walks off, just like disappears out of there. And he's talking apparently to his dad, and there's just like looking into, well, was he already on the phone? Because you don't have time to even click on your dad's face on a contact window at the rate that he's opening up his phone. And then he just jumps off, disappearing out there. So this has been the main point that she's been focusing on, really.
yeah, okay, that's a good point of view right there, because you can clearly see he's still on the ground.
Mm-hmm. And there's no
still on the ground, and he's got his back turned on the phone.
Yeah, and he got on the phone right away because he was right next. You saw the earlier shot.
And that's a good picture of him far away. Like he walks away.
Right. And so he started, and just the fact that he jumps on his phone instantly is really strange. Yeah, and he got his back turned to, like, he doesn't walk away like he's afraid. That's the thing that's super strange.
No, there's no curiosity of the event. he's not trying to peek around talking to his dad to make sure. He's got
Right.
his back turned, drawing his attention to whoever he's talking to. Do you get what I'm saying? His attention is no longer on the event because in his head, the event is conclusive. His back is turned. He's no longer trying to find out what happened.
Yeah.
That's
And
fucked up, man.
And so this is, you know, Mikey McCoy is going to be, you know, essentially in charge of Turning Point to some extent, right? Like not completely, but
he knew it was over.
My favorite conspiracy theory is the one where there was like a bullet primed and hidden in the microphone that Charlie Kirk was wearing, just pointed at his neck. I was like, that's a little crazy, but I mean, it's a tough sell. If you could sell it, damn.
I think that's the thing, is it's so easy to have conspiracy theories because people love the idea of tying. It's all the conspiracy theory is taking two correlations and tying them together in a way that you can make sense. And so fantasy and storytelling are great for explaining why things exist, but there are just things that are happening that are weird, and it's not necessary to understand them completely or to have an explanation for them, just to notice all of the things happening. Right.
The noticing.
Okay, so there's certain fiction writers who used to be Secret Service members who are accused of sort of putting soft disclosure in their work. Individuals like James, or, you know, the guy who wrote James Bond, was it Ian Fleming was a special agent, but certain people have picked apart the facts that he was like hiding UFO knowledge. That's why James Bond always had like a gadget, is because that was coming from the crashed whatevers, you know, the whole mythology. But the point is like this happened with certain individuals who were in the military after JFK. There were certain people involved who did write fiction and who later confessed. People like E. Howard Hunt, who was involved with the whole Watergate thing, actually confessed, I think in like 2008 on his deathbed. But before then, he wrote like a ton of fiction. So I know for a fact that there were certain individuals who did that for JFK. I went through like the JFK files. Their names come up. They were within ufology. And it looks like they're like disinformation people. They kind of write after the fact. They kind of like blame the bad events on somebody else instead of themselves through the fiction, so to speak.
I think another thing, like with soft disclosure material, it's not necessarily meant to be disclosure, but it's like you have elements of the truth in it. So if people ever try to call it out in real life, they're like, oh, you just got it from that movie, or you're just ripping off of Assassin's Creed, because it's already established in the fictional canon, the fictional canon.
The point I was trying to make was that I feel like that's happening now. But I kind of want to go back into the mythology of what you were just talking about. And like, there's certain names that you can call out where, like,
someone said Tom Clancy in the comments. I love that one.
The fact. So they're like saying, okay, there was an underground alien base, right?
Mm-hmm.
But instead of it being in the United States, they were like, oh, their fiction will say that it was like in Asia or something. So they're changing facts to blur the truth, right?
Or they'll do it in a way where in the movie, like the good guys are the good guys and the bad guys are the bad guys, but in the real story, it might have been reversed, like inverse.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Post what happened.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily a pre-thing. That's not like necessarily a precog thing. What I'm saying is that the narrative can be changed by individuals who are acting as conspiracy theories. They like muddy the waters. And I feel like the whole like Charlie Kirk thing, like I think that there's even this other layer to it through social media about muddying waters that we don't even understand. Like the whole Trump thing, whether you agree with Trump or not, that's not what I'm getting into, but Trump used wiki links to disseminate bad information about his opponents in a way that he made go viral. Okay. So it's like a meme generator thing, and using like, what if you were going to have an assassination? Wouldn't you have the memes already ready? So if you were going to do a Charlie Kirk thing and you were going to be smart about it, and you knew that as soon as you did it, it was going to be picked apart, couldn't you just throw rats in the maze to pick the shit apart and lead people the wrong way?
Yeah, but I'm curious where so like with Candace's video, she's basically, she sounds crazy except for what she's talking about. So she like clearly she's unhinged and I could fix her and all that. But at the same time, I mean, I like
Is it
Candace.
evidence that some of that shit could be right? Like,
look, yeah, like this is a
So
pretty
it's like-
interesting and compelling point that she makes. Like, she's done tons of these events with Charlie Kirk. There's never been this particular cameraman. This cameraman shows up. He's right up there in front with everyone else. Usually, when you're a cameraman, you try to get out of the way so that you're not in the shot and you can get the shot. But he's like on stage with him and moves to the side. He's gone just in time for the shot. And then he gets back on and he takes down his cameras. It's like a crime scene, right? He takes down his cameras right away. As soon as they've moved Charlie Kirk's body, this dude starts moving his cameras so that he doesn't have any sort of record or anything. I don't know. It just seems really strange to disturb the crime scene, really. And yeah, just all the people that were involved with the thing. More and more, she's got interesting footage of them. Like this guy, Mike McCoy, is like, "Oh man, Charlie was dead. Charlie shot. Charlie's dead. Oh my god!" It just has this really kind of, I can't even say it, but like that Connecticut school shooting kind of vibe,
Yeah, like it introduces the same
totally believable.
She's popularizing the same kind of Alex Jones type thinking that Alex Jones got in trouble with. What if it feels just like we know we're being played with, we're being toyed with, and there's like weird synchronicities and stuff that get involved also that are not necessarily confirmation. Do you get what I'm saying? Like the whole thing with if you say the sink in Snake Eyes is a real sink, then you follow out the whole thread of what the movie is. The movie is it's an inside job. His closest security guard is the one who does all of the dirty work. So is that the hint? Is that all you need to know? I kind of feel like that's all you need to know, right? Like you just by the sink of Snake Eyes, there's no way that was like perpetrated 30 years before by some like movie time traveling witch doctors. That's just an echo of whatever we know. Like somebody said in the thing about entropy. So I think it might have something to do with that. So entropy, the second rule of thermodynamics, is that everything goes from chaos into order. But if you look at our like religious text, all prophecy has to do with like people knowing the disaster before it happens, right? And there's some sort of weird thing where it's like somehow like certain things are prophetic. It has something to do with probability or the subconscious.
I think it has to do with patterns, actually.
Well, yeah. The whole idea of prophecy is based off of the things happen and repeat. So like the whole prophecies of, but that's a pattern, right? They call them types and antitypes in religion. That there's certain things that happen over and over and over and over and over again that are symbolically related. You know, what if we just take that as some sort of like architecture for how all of this shit works? And then that way it doesn't all have to be like consciously, because that's where you get hung up, is when it's like sync can't be real, or it has to be consciously made, right? But that puts you in a dark headspace where everybody has more orchestration of reality than you do. Do you get what I mean?
Well, it's just pattern recognition. I mean, even on the basic level, like if you look at any IQ test, that's really all they're testing for a reason. It is pattern
Right.
recognition, because if you could understand the fundamental patterns behind anything, then that's like the secret of life, honestly. Everything moves in like oscillating patterns.
Look how fast he picks up his phone. You see that right there?
Yeah.
Here,
Oh,
he's
this
right.
guy, look at
So,
this. This guy's gone.
Boom, boom. As soon as the bullet, it's like within a second. So let's just see here. So he's talking, and then boom, as it flashes, you can see he's got his phone up to his face instantly. Like it's crazy fast. Like how
That
fast?
cameraman jets.
Yeah.
That
And
should be
boom.
how other people react. Boom, I'm out.
So he walks behind, and then you can see like he keeps going that way, like instantly walks out of there, which is just
That's
like, would you do that? Like, I just don't even know. Like, I mean,
The one
you
thing
don't
that I
want to get
learned
killed, but like, really? I just feel like that's not the way you. Someone
there's
gets
other
shot and they jump
angles.
on him.
You remember the guys with the hand signals and stuff? David Plate turned me on to some footage from a different angle where it doesn't look like those people are doing that at all. And I think it's the same thing is you're at such a distance away from that guy that you can't really tell what his gestures and motions are. But he walks away and like his back is turned. Is he just trying to, he's not running like everyone else. His head's not trying to figure out what's going on. That's wild. And then he's off into the parking lot.
Yeah,
He's not
and
running.
he's not
He's on
running.
the
People are.
phone.
Everyone else is running, and he's super. That's so big. Like he's not
Super
running.
composed.
Yeah, that's a trip. That's just weird. I don't know. It's just crazy. Not saying that means anything, but hey, I get why Candace is talking about it. And so basically, no one will talk to her anymore from Turning Point. Like they basically, she's
Yeah,
completely
she
like
basically called them out as the perpetrators.
she's blackballed at the lodge for that, which is I think originally she didn't do that. Originally, she said, "Hey, I do conspiracy theory videos. You should probably give me some data so I can debunk these crazy conspiracy theories that you guys killed your best friend." Like, obviously, you wouldn't do that.
I don't
right?
watch her content, but is she like, does she have any PMA, like any like vestige of positive mental attitude? Like, does she say like, is she grateful? Like in her,
She doesn't have a septum
She's
piercing, if that's what you're asking, but like she's close sometimes. I don't think I would give her she's like 10 to 20% okay. She's
Huh.
clearly stressed the hell out, like obviously. But like, wouldn't you be? I feel like you would be just as stressed out as her if you were in her shoes.
what,
And
having a friend die? I'm sorry, like a lot of my friends are fucking in the dirt
No,
now.
not just that. Not just that. I meant like just generally her life. Like she's new to understanding all this stuff. She sounds like a freshman who just read about
Oh yeah,
the
yeah.
church
No,
committee hearings.
I
She's
have
like
nothing.
just now learning about the CIA. You know what
I
I
have
mean?
nothing but
Yeah,
empathy
yeah.
and sympathy for Candace Owens, which actually this is something I've been thinking about lately. Like, because like I feel like I've gotten a handle on gratitude. My next step is compassion. I have to get better at compassion, because I could be grateful without being compassionate at all, and it's probably not the best thing.
Okay,
So
you know how like AOC Ocasio-Cortez will she's like a crazy liberal, but she'll say she's so naive sometimes. She investigates something that the left did and accidentally makes it harder for them, and they're always like, dude, just stop walking like in our own way, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
She's Candace Owens is like that for the right. Like she similarly is a bit naive and is just learning things for the first time, or for like in the last couple of years, and she'll question things, but sometimes she'll question things on the right, and that's a good thing to do. Like we need kind of that sort of irresponsible investigatory spirit, and I think that's worth it in a lot of ways. So I would just say that in defense of Candace Owens.
well,
but
the best thing to do is to be the concluder in that regard. It's like, be psychopathically confident but willing to admit errors. It's like, oh, you got evidence against my claim? Sure, I'll take a look at that. Like
that's what I mean. I think like Ocasio-Cortez and Candace Owens can do that. Both of them can be like,
Yeah.
well, I'm just asking questions here. I just
Yeah,
want to know what's going on.
I'm just a regular person on the internet.
Right, yeah.
Hell yeah.
But I mean, I don't know, because
I just
where
feel like our actions on social media have been analyzed to the point where they can be massively manipulated through like, because I don't think, okay, so I think once Joe Rogan gets that much money, then the whole alternate like news era was now the mainstream era.
yeah,
But it doesn't make it any less manipulative. Like
for sure.
there's
That's the thing about like us all watching the same channel. Even if we're not watching the same show, we're watching the same channel.
we
And
all know who Candace Owens is.
it's all the same content. Even if we're watching a different YouTuber talking about that content, it's all the same hashtags. It's all the same. People are just constantly rehashing the same story all day. That's basically the same thing as watching one show at a certain point, because we're just getting different people talking about the same content. So it's like an extension of the show. Social media representing a show, right?
I do think though, if we're going to be manipulated by one force or another, I think you can like kind of influence yourself as to what or who to be manipulated by. And I think God is like a safe bet. Like I think out of all these other entities like forces, corporations.
See, what scares me is that that's the kind of shit that Candace says. I don't know. Like I'm okay with it, but it seems like God is loved by the very intelligent, insanely intelligent, and then also the stupidest people. It's so
It's a matter of
universalizing.
probability, and it's a matter of entropy. I don't
I'm
know.
definitely the latter, yeah.
You can be
It's
both.
something like there's not, us being here makes no sense. And there's all kinds of conspiracy theories about why it is the way it is, as far as like archons and aliens, DNA manipulating us. But that's really no different than what like the Bible says or whatever. So there's this idea that God talks to people and that God sort of writes through people, and that those groups of words are divinely inspired,
Mhm.
and that basically is what you're talking about. As far as like, I mean, is there another definition of God from you, sir?
Well, another way to frame it would be like, I think there was some UFO whistleblower guy said this before. He was like, he was basically putting forth the notion that human beings, as we are, just these these brains and bodies and having thoughts and emotion, experiencing emotions, like we're only so expansive within like higher dimensions. So it's like we're just vessels essentially, like as we are as individuals. Yeah, we could matter as individuals in the physical plane, but anything higher than that, then we just become like vessels for, I don't know, maybe like infusion or maybe like possession. That's another way to put it. So I think that's really determined by how you live in this physical world. Like that sets a certain frequency, and that is going to determine like what you're kind of being influenced by on higher planes or higher realms. So if you're a person who like lives selfishly or lives to make money, regardless of who gets thrown on the bus for that, to that end, and you do it in a disciplined way, then yeah, you might favor you might win some demon's favor who will grant you power as long as you keep walking that path. And if you stray from it, you get punished. You lose everything. Same on the other side of the spectrum. Like if you live in a way that's reflecting a lot of like a state of gratitude or maybe compassion, then you're going to become like you're going to set your frequency to become a proper vessel for a different kind of entity, who will kind of empower you to do that, who'll guide you in a way. Well, here's how to be even more compassionate and more grateful. You got to work out your body. Like you need physical strength, and you got to exercise your mind a bit, and you got to practice courage, go out and talk to people, open yourself up, make yourself vulnerable. So it's really like how you consciously choose to live and the patterns you set for yourself in your individual life that expands to turning you into a vessel for whatever you're tuned to. And then that's how you end up doing crazier stuff, on either side of the spectrum.
Saying pattern and say like habit. And
yeah,
so
habits.
if you can change your habit, you can change like your vessel or the patterns that happen around you. Like if
Your
you can change
frequency.
your habits, different patterns will arise. Like you're consciously injecting pattern. But I mean, isn't that ritual? Wouldn't that be the same definition of ritual, so to speak? An individual, like you even say that to a certain degree, like, oh, my ritual when I work out, or my ritual for going to bed. Well, that's what we were talking about at the very beginning, right? As far as
Mhm.
like what time we went to bed, like what's your nightly ritual, what you do, you brush your teeth, they're habits, right?
I think what makes a ritual special from a habit is that it's kind of got this dissociating element to it. Like, you know, a ritual is something that really doesn't necessarily have an obvious practical benefit. Like if your ritual is brushing your teeth, if you call that your ritual, well, it's the kind of ritual where it's like, yeah, if I brush my teeth, though, my teeth get cleaned. Whereas there's these other kinds of rituals that you know, you just do, and the benefits aren't always obvious, like praying before a meal or meditating before a shrine in your home or something like that. Like those just from entertaining it, let alone actually acting out the process of doing the ritual, you're kind of introducing dissociation. And you know, the most intense rituals like kind of reinforce that dissociation heavily by making you do traumatic things. I mean, things I necessarily wouldn't even want to like say, you know, on the internet, but you could use your imagination, and then that activates a kind of dissociation through a trauma response, for example, and then you're definitely open to like patterns, to getting patterns injected into you. And then maybe that's how like if you could accurately copy the patterns or the habits of, say, a ruler or a leader that's long since dead, and
Right.
then you break someone down mentally,
I mean, that's like the
psychologically.
whole idea of like 50
Freeman.
Rules of Power or whatever
Yeah.
by Robert Greene. Like the whole idea of
48
like
Laws of Power. It's a good book.
48,
I like
right,
that
right,
book.
right. And then
Yeah.
the 50th law. But then like he wrote a book with 50 Cent later.
Yeah, the
Because that
50th Law.
book became extremely popular in prisons because
And
that's what it
celebrities.
right. Well, anyone like athletes, like individuals who are kind of obsessed with power, of course. But I mean, one of the things that you're forced to do is find some sort of power, and when you're incarcerated, you get what I'm saying? And so, like, yeah, like that basically was injecting them with these research stories of how some of the most powerful people on the planet like did what they did. And that was like, and it's a huge book. So who's got time to read that unless you're incarcerated? Jesus Christ. It's like a
I
weapon.
read the 48 Laws when I was a teen because I was going through like tough times. You know, I had like minimal support. So I was like, what do I do? How do I acquire agency in my life when like I'm just sleeping on couches and my family's not really like around to help me out? So I read that book 3 times over in like 3 separate periods of my life. What I especially like about the 48 Laws of Power is that for each law, they'll give you like a segment that's an observance of the law. So it says, look at this historical figure. This is when he abided by the law and he got rewarded for it. And then they'll show you a transgression of the law where it's like, this is a historical figure that didn't follow the law and he got fucked. Now, what's also interesting is that as you read it, you'll find that some laws seem to contradict others. And it's really just about like assuming formlessness, like use all of these principles as tools and adopt them willingly as the need arises and whatnot. It's a good book. You should check it out.
Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead. Sorry, Will.
No, I learned a lot about his, like Robert Greene has this way of researching where he uses these little note cards. And you can tell I'm like remodeling my whole office right now, but I'm like surrounded by these fucking note cards. I got hundreds of them, but that's what he uses them. Like you put a fact on there or whatever. You can use this for all different kinds of like researching though. You could put a movie on here. Like if you did sync work, you can write each one with the movie and then write the certain notes. And that way you can divide it up or shuffle it. And that will help you formulate your idea in a way that's like presentable. And it's basically like shuffle is like playing cards. Here's my tarot deck, but I had a whole set of these things like they're all, oh, here they are right here. It's like all categorized in these little containers. And then I can put the subjects in each of those containers that I can find like YouTube videos on where to find stuff. And that all came from like Robert Greene, because I like found out how he did this through one of his researchers named,
You know what? You
know
would
who
really.
go ahead.
I was gonna say, from looking at what you do, you would really like the Zettelkasten system. It's pretty much it's all hinged on indexing. It's kind of how libraries function with what they do. It's how well you could index your material, your notes, and your content. It's how well you label it and tag. It's basically tagging. If you, depending on what you tag, you put it in certain containers filled with other containers, and then you have an index that you refer to. Now, what's cool about the Zettelkasten system is you could organize it however you want. You could do it all in one notebook, or you could do it in like a file system on your computer. Like you could do it all digitally, which I do. I do both. I do a commonplace notebook kind of thing with the Obsidian
commonplace
software.
book is commonplace. Yeah. You said commonplace. This is what I had in my mind, because that's basically what I like researched it all the way back to. The form of it is called a commonplace book, where you're just writing notes in or whatnot. But,
yeah. That's like a superpower. I mean, I tried to like put my friends onto that stuff, but it just like went right over their heads. They're like, "Why are you writing in those notebooks all the time?" I'm like, "You wouldn't get it." Like, but also it's like it looks cooler on an interface like Obsidian. It's free software, and it has a cool interface with it. Like it shows you like all these dots just linking up in terms of how you tag and link.
Somebody should create an app where you have it to where, I mean, it's going to be what an AI assistant will be, right? You'd basically just be able to give a stream of consciousness, like you're having a conversation with yourself, to this AI, and it should be able to like schedule your appointments, file it up underneath priority, divide it into categories. Because I do like quotes. I'm so paranoid that I don't like to put my opinion on Facebook often, so I just do quotes. But on one of those cards, I'll just, if I see a cool quote, I'll write it in there and just keep it and just have a big pile of them. You know what I mean? And then every time I put one up on Facebook, I say date it and put the day that I put it up on Facebook. And then you can go through them later and shuffle them and like, oh, I had forgotten about that one or whatever. It's like keeping information outside of your brain. Some people call it an external brain. But that's how he wrote the 48 Laws of Power. He had getting all of those ideas in each of those stories and put them in this like shoebox full of those cards. And I mean, there was just thousands of them. It was amazing. But that's like all he's doing is reading books. That's all he's doing. He's reading books and getting other people to read books and make those little cards and give those cards to him. And then that's what he makes his books out of.
I feel like that's what Grok is doing now, right? They have like a project, like they have like imagine images and voice chat and chat with Grok to ask questions. They have a new one called Projects, and you can set up a project you want to think about and work on. It'll help you organize it, schedule it, all that. So that's coming pretty fast. I think we're nearly there. Dirty Harry asked, "What's the show even about?" It's all over the place. Yes, it's about
advanced memes.
It's about eclectic things, right? I don't know. The title was "Are UFOs could be angels and demons," which came from JD Vance. Actually, I mean, I've said it a million times recently or ever, but now this morning.
Shadow of Ezra is cool, man. Do you have any other? Is there any other people on Twitter that are like Shadow of Ezra?
I don't know.
Coming across him when I'm looking for information. He's just amazing.
All right, I didn't even follow him. Talk about him? What's he do?
Just scroll down. It's information, pretty much news on who's saying what when. And I'll have all about Epstein, UFOs. I guess apparently now, like it will. This
shit is not good for my brain,
but it's just basically news. Like it will tell you who's saying like the most obscure shit.
Oh, it's about the same stuff that we're talking about. Okay,
that's why I thought that's why I thought you knew who that was.
I should have. I mean, sounds great. I guess. I mean, yeah, it's probably not good for your mind though. Oh, why do you think that is, Chris?
Well, first of all, doom scrolling is probably not that healthy. I'm guilty of that sometimes, 100%.
It does look like a doom scroll, doesn't it? Yeah.
It's not really that bad. I found it because I used Grok to tell me certain things about Epstein, and then search Twitter or X to find stories about what I was asking Grok. And I thought that worked really well, because then I found all of these different people who talk about stuff, but they source it. If that makes sense? Because otherwise you're just like a no face who's slinging stuff on. But Shadow of Ezra will give stuff on Roger Stone, of course, Vance.
Here's what Vance said earlier.
You know, I don't. It's interesting. I wouldn't say that I do or don't believe it. I mean, I'm a big believer that there are things out there that we can't explain. And so if another person sees an alien, maybe I see an angel or a demon. So I'm a big believer that there are like spiritual forces working on the physical world that a lot of us don't see and a lot of us don't understand and a lot of us don't appreciate. But, you know, is it aliens or is it our guardian angel, or is it aliens or is it a not so guardian force that doesn't care about us or in fact actively wishes us harm? I don't know the answer to that question. What I try to do is I try to say my prayers. I try to be as good of a person as I can be, and I try to do a good job. And hopefully that's all I need to do.
So maybe kind of a chill thing to say.
Well, that's pretty much what we've been saying like throughout the whole show. It's like, I guess the point is you can't really control anything. You can only really control how you respond to things. You can't control any of this shit with aliens and JD Vance and Charlie Kirk's murder. You have a rebuttal to that? How do you respond? How do you respond to that? It only matters how you respond to things, Kurt.
I just didn't know that JD Vance was just so entirely based. You know, what a vice president we have. That's all I gotta say.
I mean, it was low key. Like he could be talking to your double-digit IQ Baptist Christians right now, or he could be telling the world that Project Bluebeam is real and that aliens are actually aliens and demons, and that we've just rebranded angels and demons as an extraterrestrial to make it easier for people. I mean, you're more afraid of a demon than you are of an alien, right? I mean, you could be afraid of an alien because we've seen all sorts of aliens.
Well, they have to be the same thing. I mean,
what's the real difference between them? I think it's that one is a lot more personal to us than like aliens. For example, like if we're talking about spiritual forces, well, what makes them spiritual or demonic? It's the fact that they could influence us, not even physically, but on like our deepest, most fundamental levels of consciousness and how we process emotions and our habits, not necessarily conscious big decisions.
That's what ET does. So I feel like they've trained people to be more open to the experience with ET.
You bring up a good point as far as ET is concerned, because there's definitely religious overtones as far as the movie poster. And also you look at like Close Encounters of the Third Kind, there's some biblical shit going on in there too. So it's kind of like
the finger touching is very Adam and God,
it's Adam touching the hand of God.
Right.
But also like ET comes out and his heart's all glowing like, the Christ that you see with blue lights and red lights coming out of it. And then the rainbow at the end is kind of like the covenant between God and Noah. After he floods, he gives like the little rainbow. But anyways, the point is
very nice.
Yeah. But see, there's certain things that are like totally intentional. Certain Terminator 2 is called Judgment Day.
Yeah.
And the guy's name is John Connor. And there's all of this weird analyzation of certain
Jesus Christ
that have been associated with the Last Supper. Anyways, is it implanted in us? Is it trying to get us to? I mean, is this Project Bluebeam? Is this like?
I feel like 3i Atlas
and propaganda.
Everyone's been saying 3i Atlas is going to be this big Bluebeam thing, or aliens, or some sort. Because the whole thing. There's like a Oumuamua solar object that's going to get charged up by the sun and slingshot off. You know what I'm talking about? Have you been paying attention to this?
Yeah.
3-eye atlas, and so there's something that they're gonna people say, oh man, there's alien life and we're gonna see it, right? That's kind of the zeitgeist for the last year, that November would be a time when we're gonna have some sort of a first connection with whatever aliens are, whether they're just human time travelers from the future, or if they're angels and demons or something like that, or if it's just a big psyop, most likely, that's designed to
I
unify
personally
us.
feel more connected with some external force, definitely. Like 5 years ago, I was not considering anything to do with God, spirits, angels, entities, whatever, or a psychic connection with them thereof. But now I feel like I would hope that I'm living in a way where it's like I'm not offending them or something. And so far, that's just translated to having better habits, to not like react to like other people emotionally like so often, try to like think before or be more compassionate, definitely be grateful. I think that was like a big shift. That was a big thing. Because if you don't believe in anything, then it's like you have no divine authority to be grateful for, or no higher authority. I mean, give it, at least the New Agers can say like, I'm thankful for being a star seed, and I'm thankful for my spirit team, soul team, or whatever. At least you have something. But what matters is that you have easier access to gratitude in that state. And I think that feels pretty alien to me still, because like I was in a much more materialist and negative polarity, I guess. I felt more like the world was against me. It was me against the world, as opposed to me being a part of the world, and a part of everything else.
I mean, aliens are, so for a long time you had angels would help you, but you're also afraid of demons. And then for a while it was like, well, they're all just aliens. And now it's like there's good aliens. There's the light aliens, the Hyperboreans, right? Then there's the dark aliens from the
The
dark forest.
reptilians.
And then there's the gray. And so it just feels to me like they're pushing towards just telling you that there's some sort of supernatural presence, but they're divorcing it from religious symbolism by calling it aliens.
Well, they're
Yeah,
wrapping
because-
it in Charlie Kirk, though. Like it's being delivered in this Christian, like something that the mass amount of the Christian base would accept.
Sounds fun. Sounds exciting.
I should just present shit. I should just ask to present shit and not try to send you texts that don't work.
You trying to send me communion?
Yeah, I mean, you just said it. Like, I mean,
Right.
and it's named after a religious ideal for
True.
a kickoff.
Yeah. Have you guys all seen this movie or read the book, about communion with Christopher Walken? It's a true story.
Or the
sort of.
OG stories.
Do you know about this one,
Yeah.
Kurt?
That's an OG for real.
I do not.
That's why you had an alien sticker on your lunchbox, Holmes.
Yeah, so this guy, Whitley Strieber, he was abducted by either the CIA pretending to be, or actually was abducted by Greys, right? And he went looking into people who'd been abducted, ended up being abducted, and having meetings with all of these survivor, victim, anonymous, abductee, Roswell sort of support groups. And then the movies about how they like took him onto this weird ship. He meets all these Greys and realizes that they're just sort of cybernetic organisms that light beings are using, but they're not the actual bodies. And there's all sorts of weird tentacle probing that happens to him as well. It's kind of the whole history. Everyone believes, right, that they're being abducted. Women are being impregnated on the side of the road, like X-Files. All that stuff seems to come from communion.
Yeah,
Definitely influenced I don't know if I wouldn't say he made the gray aesthetic. I would say he popularized the gray aesthetic, but he wasn't prepared for the amount of people who told him that they had seen what he put on the front of his book, and had foolishly written his address in the back of the book, and the post office got mad at him because the amount of letters that came out. It was back in the 87 when you said OG. The first story was 87. I think the next one came in like 88. I think the movie came in 89. I want to say. I think the event that happens in the book is 86.
What really kind of
86.
tugs my interest is the sightings of Nordics. Like, why that? Like, why that form? Why blonde haired, blue eyed? It's pretty saucy in a lot of ways. Like,
It's pretty saucy. It is.
yeah,
Well, what if like all I mean, you've seen movies, I'm sure, about this, like that all humans are descended from different aliens, right?
yeah,
That
yeah.
the
Like
Earth is a
Asians are like
hodgepodge.
insectoid, and white people are like something else, and yeah.
I don't know, maybe that I think that could be a thing, that there's also genetic modification from time travel if someone's going forward and backward, which seems to be a major point that they keep bringing up in all of the sci-fi disclosure these days. More
I know.
and
I know
more.
it sounds weird.
Could be branding too. Like this group of people, this is our experiment. That group of people is your experiment.
The Illuminatus trilogy said it had something to do with body hair. The Illuminatus trilogy has this whole conversation. It's really funny. It's almost like a
About
Tarantino
Atlantis.
style conversation. And they're talking about the ones who are more human have more hair, like on their chest and stuff.
Mm.
And then the other ones have been mated with other stuff, have less hair. Or
And that's why I have lizard skin.
yeah, that's a good point, bro. I got eczema. Does that make me part lizard? Like, what the fuck?
I'm definitely roachkin.
Roachkin.
Yeah.
Did you see
Everyone
that?
wants to be something cool, like, oh, my spirit animal is wolf, kangaroo. It's like mine is cockroach.
Cockroaches do survive, man. They survive amazing things. I remember one time I was in Argentina and there was a cockroach in my apartment in Buenos Aires, and I was still like a vegan hippie. I was like, I should like put it in a cup or something and then like take it out. Took it out of the third floor balcony, and like opened the cup, and the thing flies out. And I didn't know that cockroaches could do that, but it just like flies like 100 meters, glides across the whole road to the other side. I was amazed. I was like, I don't know if you ever need to save cockroaches again. Hey, what's up, Andrew?
Oh, howdy, guys.
We're talking about the 3i Atlas Project Bluebeam. JD Vance said that UFOs could be angels or demons. I don't know if you had thoughts on whether it's a psyop or a biblical apocalypse, or if we're actually going to meet aliens, it's going to unite the human race against one common threat or towards one common dream. Where are we at with all the psyoping?
I accept that every single one of those possibilities could be true, even the possibility that they're all true simultaneously, in a way, because what better way to disguise fake invasion with the backdrop of, a very real craft or whatever coming through. But it also seems it's obviously very buzzy, which I never trust. Anything that is like real, like any narrative that's pushed by the media. But now even stuff on TikTok has been compromised. There's some people make fake videos related to a thing just to try to get clicks. Like they will straight up make things up, just to, it's like, oh, people are talking about 3i Atlas. Let me say that there's an even bigger ship, 100 times larger, in hot pursuit directly behind it. Which is something that I saw, but I didn't see any. It was the only source for that. So, yeah, I don't know. Bluebeam. It's like I've been pre-programmed to believe that Bluebeam is what's going to happen, as opposed to the people who study. Well, as opposed to the party that's going to be psyoped into thinking that the invasion, or they're pre-programmed to think like, oh my God, this is aliens. We better bow down because we're nothing compared to them. Because that's usually how it goes in science fiction. Very rarely, I think if it was supposed to mirror any type of media, I'll wrap it up. I would say the most recent Independence Day movie is best case scenario.
It almost seems like everyone through media and psyoping is just being conditioned to think like a government spook. Everyone's thinking in terms of leverage and no longer really like banking on their perception, but more on perspectives, which I think is actually good. It is. I definitely think people should consider perspectives more than their own perceptions. But yeah, everyone's just like, I don't know, question everything. Like it's probably false info. It's a false flag. It's counter intel.
Counter intel. Oh, bro. That's what I think the confusion is like, basically that's what the Bible is about. Like all through the prophets, it's basically judgment day. They call him the Lord of hosts because he has an army. God has an army. He comes down and he erects judgment on on all the nations of the earth, is basically what it says. And if you look at like the Quran, there's parts where it says that all nations are lined up into what they call like the book of deeds. And then in Revelations, it talks about the book that your name, the God's book that your name's got to be in. And of course, that's the Bible, right? Or it's inspired writings, or if you're David Koresh, it's everything you think and say is printed out on a tablet. Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of wild that what the whole holy book prophesizes is that people make an enemy out of God. It's like Psalms 2. It's like Psalms 1 through 4. That's what it's about. It's like the heathen rage against God. And God is like this army that comes from the sky and blots out the earth. So what happens in that case? What happens as far as like we're concerned?
Well, I mean, I think if there's like a collective ontologically shocking event, supposedly, like, why would they do something like Blue Beam? I mean, one of the possible reasons is that it would collectively make all people unite. And I think there's something to that, and not necessarily an alien invasion, but any crazy event. And what if that event in itself becomes the event? Like if everyone just suddenly decides, you know what, I no longer give a shit about being a Democrat or a Republican or an American or a German or an Israeli. Like I no longer care. I just only want to focus on the fact that I'm a human being. I'm going to forgive whatever instances of past national disputes or whatever. Like I no longer care. I don't care about cultural disputes anymore. I just want to focus on the fact that I'm human.
Like, would you gather your firearms up against some aliens, bro? Or would you go
if I had to? Well, I mean, if I didn't have a choice, like this is what we're saying. Like we can't control what happens to us. We can only control how we respond. And if what happens to me,
the confusion is like when the aliens come, are you going to fight them because you think they're the government? Are you going to fight them because you think that they're God? Or do you
I don't want to fight anybody, to be honest. I wouldn't want to
Right.
fight another human, let alone another alien. Like I just don't want to fight if I don't have to.
I feel like most people wouldn't fight. I feel like if aliens present themselves as angels from a utopian world that's like paradise or heaven, then you've got an ambassadorial group that are saying, hey, we're immortal, or we're supermen, and if you live this way, you can eventually become part of our world. That's the Star Trek evangelism. And so if it gives them sorry, go ahead, Andrew.
We have to pass a moral test in order to join the Galactic Federation.
Yeah, I feel like that's
morality aside. I think it's even if you don't consider the morality, just make the conscious decision. It's like, don't fight them. Don't fight anyone. Try not to fight anyone. You know, I mean, it's like everyone ultimately is just children of God, right? So you could take the religious or spiritual angle.
It's a threat. There is a threat here. I'm going to use Chatbot to help me because I am not a Bible verse type of guy. But basically it says if you like, you're going to have your wife and kids like ravaged in front of you is basically what it says.
That's terrible.
By God's army, by like dudes with double-sided swords. It sounds like lightsabers. Like, hold on, let's see. And I know it's in there. Like there's a lot of threats against humanity from God throughout the prophets. And because he disagrees with Israel's culture. And in fact, he lets them get slaughtered when he doesn't agree with them. When God doesn't like the way Israel's doing things, he allows them to get slaughtered.
Yeah, but what the way I look at it is like if you're living against the word of God anyway, and God tells us to do very basic things. So if you don't do those things, like the damage you do to yourself is already equal, almost, if not greater in the long run, than like aliens coming and ravaging your family or God's army coming and doing materially destructive things. From what I've seen, it's like when people, whether consciously or unconsciously, follow or transgress, you know, just doing the right thing, I think you end up, you really do end up fucking yourself over. first in like deeper ways, and then it manifests slowly to the outer world, like as above, so below, as within, so without.
You're talking about Zechariah 14:2. Oh, gather
Define
all
it,
the
'cause-
nations to Jerusalem to fight against it. The city will be captured, the houses ransacked, the women assaulted, and half the city will go into exile, but the rest of the people will not be taken from the city.
No, there's more. There's like 3 or 4 of them that like link together that all say the same thing in like random verses of whole chapters, if that makes sense. And they're like threats against those who are against God. And they're out of order. That's like the whole thing with like David Koresh is he puts things in order. And then when you read them in order, you're like, oh shit, how do those things not have anything to do with each other? And it's usually based off of like words.
Isaiah
Just the word-
Isaiah 13, their children also shall be dashed to pieces before their eyes. Their house shall be spoiled and their wives ravished.
That's the one.
The oracle against Babylon. God
if-
says he will bring to Medes to destroy Babylon's judgment. Sorry, Andrew?
Right. Babylon is the whore, or the big city at the end is Babylon. The big city is Babylon, and
Nice
judgment
cameo.
is Judgment Day, and they're like, it's a threat.
Andrew.
I was just going to say, if they are amassing some kind of army, I mean, in order to fight the fake war against aliens for space oil, you know, we got Space Force already. The 1st Battalion, like the people on the front lines, should be femboys, because you know, we always talk about, I'm going to clap some aliens when they invade. No one thinks they're going to get their cheeks clapped by an alien, which is more likely going to be the case if they are aggressive in that way. I mean, just look at the historical pattern of colonizers.
Give me your young boys, your young pretty femboys.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? It's like, best case scenario, they put up a good fight. Worst case scenario, you know, they get bred by an alien and are some kind of a peace offering.
Isn't that
That's
why
all
we have so many femboys anyway? That's probably
Well, I will say this though, like if you're
They're trying to turn the boys into girls so that way they'll be fodder fed to the aliens. They'll be the first ones in. You know, we already
desire
see that
femboys.
yeah, the look at the trans agenda. It's like they're starting to get aggressive on these hormones, which really shouldn't be the case. It probably has more to do with what stage of life they're in.
When Pocahontas came from America to England, she got sick because of lack of immunities. And so I thought when COVID first happened, that would be a perfect time for alien invasion. Because, you know, if aliens were to tour the earth and everyone had to keep 2 meters apart and wear masks, they couldn't get them sick as easily, right?
Yo, speaking of COVID, by the way, real quick, I've been just not enjoying beer and liquor, so I've just been drinking like a lot of wine, and I've been considering like collecting all the COVID year wines, you know, like a COVID vintage.
Totally.
I mean, it's just, maybe it has a unique taste to it, like 10 years down the line. I got to figure out how to store it and shit.
That's a good thing to do with your time, become a wine snob.
COVID vintage.
Kurt, do you have thoughts on aliens, the alien invasion, what you would do?
Oh,
First
aliens.
contact.
I think they would have done it by now, to be honest. Like they're biding their time. They're biding their time. They come every now and again, every like 20 to 30 years, like and make marginal contact just to keep the reality TV show going on their home planet. But like they're not actually planning on invading. Like they've had many thousands of years to, you know, like actually take over the planets. Well, I mean, they're an alien race, so it's like they probably, if they have a highly evolved society, it's like they've always had that capability. Who knows? They could be the impetus. They could be the real ones who, you know, said, hey, you're going to have a mind now. You're going to eat from the tree in the Garden of Eden now. So now you have consciousness, because like we find this kind of entertaining, but we're just all this grand experiment of these divine aliens, essentially.
To find gold for them.
Yeah. So I don't think we're going to be taken over by aliens or anything anytime soon. Just because like we we get very easily into the trap of recency bias when it comes to things, or technological hype, or CIA hype, things of all that nature. Like if the government wants us to be distracted for something, they can just release some files, say, here you go, here's the next grand conspiracy. And I think that certainly does happen all the time. Propaganda is a very, very powerful tool. So yeah, there's chances are the universe is just so vast that there is intelligent life out there, of course. But it doesn't necessarily mean X, Y, and Z. And of course, it takes so many resources to space travel. Like, even if aliens are highly, highly advanced, it doesn't mean they can just transport an entire civilization from one area to another, willy-nilly. That's why, so much stuff about the moon landing is so unbelievable from a base perspective. Like, how would you transport all these resources? And of course, I'm not presenting conspiracy theories. I'm saying, intuitively, if you told a person 1,000 years ago, like, hey, we sent a man to the moon, there would be a million reasons why they said, no, that's bullcrap. You can't go to the moon. It's so yeah, I really went down the moon landing rabbit hole for sure. That's
a lot of people seem to believe that you could go to the moon thousands of years ago. Like, you just needed a rabbit or something, right? Like the Chinese have like a rabbit that got the moon queen there. Pecos Bill had like a girlfriend that he bounced off of her bustier thing, and she like it's the. I think a lot of people kind of took that. I don't know. I guess I wonder what probability would you scale it that aliens have ever existed, have been here already, or already are running things, have already been running things.
The reptilian theory. Yeah, I don't think I think the reptilian theory is satire. So I don't think they're actually running the show. I think there are numerous ways. Of course, there is the argument out there that spores are an alien product, like a lot of spores that came to this planet. And it's possible that human life is kind of influenced by extraterrestrial invasions. So it's like existing, yes, I think absolutely. Alien to aliens in terms of planet Earth, like things that exist outside of Earth, that certainly exist. To what level of consciousness, I don't know. And then, but there's just so much interaction from outer forces from galaxy to galaxy over millions of years. Like, yeah, things like spores, they can withstand extreme conditions and go from one planet to another. So it's like, well, also gold, like the thing that we value so preciously, gold. There seems to be evidence that it didn't come, that wasn't innate to the Earth, for like at least within like our solar system. Gold might have been from this great big grand meteor that crashed into the Earth many eons ago. And like, whoa, and the more you think about it, the more it just seems like this freak substance. Like, why is this thing here? You might not even find gold on other planets within our solar system. So that might have came from this great big grand meteor, and it doesn't operate by a lot of other principles of elements. So that's a cool thing to think about.
What do you?
For sure.
That was all really amazing. What do you guys think about the WOW signal? Was that what it was?
I know what you're talking about. Here, I'll look it up for you.
Yeah, it was. I guess it was some signal that came 47-ish years ago, and it was 72 seconds long, and they were trying to figure out if it meant anything. But the nature of the signal was it had a bunch of like code. It was encoded. With the golden ratio, and I forget what else but it even had like a signature on it, so to speak, or it was basically like a cookie kind of. I don't know how better to explain it. I'm not that smart, but yeah, the WOW signal. There's been people saying that the WOW signal came from the same trajectory that 3i Atlas came from.
Huh.
But there's a bunch of hidden, like,
1977.
Yeah, sorry, I was muted, I guess. August 15th, 1977, the WoW signal is kind of used as maybe the lore story behind Oumuamua, that there's a signal, it bounces, they hear it in radio, they then send a preliminary craft. It takes decades to get to our sun, then is thermally charged by getting so close to the sun that it radiates until it's white hot, then carries that energy forward like a supercapacitor as the second ship approaches, which is the 3-Eye Atlas, which is supposed to arrive. And this was the one that they said was the bigger ship. I don't know if you're saying, Andrew, there's another one that you've heard about on TikTok, but I wouldn't be surprised. Right. I mean, that's kind of the idea, is that there's, something that's been alerted in the dark forest and it's now coming. And this is the, dawning of the age of Aquarius into the Dvapara Yuga or something, that we're getting into an energy state. Also, just on that idea, because Kurt was talking about how hard it is to move resources. Moving resources is different than moving light. So if you can send your data signal to a station through light at light speed, and then at that data signal station produce some sort of a gray cybernetic organism that you can put your soul or your mind into, imprint your memories into, then you have a body waiting for you at a location. So it's like traveling to an Airbnb, right? And that's maybe what this is about, that there's signal in space that's light bending between two objects, and then there's eventually physical resources that are brought that take decades to arrive or something. But I mean, that's assuming any of this has any bearing on reality. The other way to look at it is scientific atheism needs some sort of empirical faith proof. And so this is a thing that you can unite at least most people who would believe in the moon landing and September 11th and Sandy Hook, whatever, that they're going to believe probably in some sort of first contact, which is just, how many people do you think really are going to remain? I mean, people are getting more and more skeptical all the time. I think a huge part of the population is skeptical of everything. Skeptical of the Charlie Kirk story is huge. There's no way 5 years ago you couldn't even have been this open about suggesting it was more than a trans shooter, right? You'd have to just go with it. So I think it's interesting how people are more and more skeptical. And I wonder if you'd be able to convince people, even if it was real, like how could you convince people that there really was a alien contact? People, I think a huge percentage of the population won't believe it on principle.
Well,
Right.
one of my favorite threads to pull on is the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works ethos, or their whole backstory, I guess, like where I think it was the chairman that was quoted, or former chairman that was quoted, saying like someone was asking, they kept asking him about UFOs, and he's like, he points to a guy, he's like, all points in space and time are connected. How is this possible? And he was considering, he was like, or no, I think it was the other way around. He was like, ESP, how is it possible? And he was like, all points in space and time are connected. And he's like, that's correct. So if you think of it in that terms, it's like, to tap into using that principle to, I guess, elevate your transportation technology. It's less about going from point A to point B. Instead, you just shift the whole sheet under you, and you just learn how to do that instead. So it's not like you're the traveling dot. It's you're just the dot, stationary dot, and you're moving the whole board under you, essentially. So I don't know. I mean, that's one of my favorite ones, because all it takes is just kind of like a shift in perspective to kind of like entertain the idea.
Because they also talk about not only time but space dilation with these crafts. Like, you'll go inside of an orb that's like 10 feet in diameter from the outside, but from the inside it's the size of like a football stadium.
Oh yeah, that's
allegedly, you know what I mean? Which kind of, I could see that. I could understand how that would work if you have the capability of manipulating space and time in that manner, in such a manner to be able to traverse great distances of space or time. Yeah,
because like one of the creepiest, I guess, conspiracies was that there was reported travel to, like, I think, other star systems, and they found planets just like ours and the intelligent life on the planet where they were very human like. They essentially looked the same as us, and they even drove cars. They wore like similar clothing. That's creepy to think about.
Joseph Smith
But-
said there were Quakers on the moon, bro. You never know.
Yeah.
What's up with Waco? How does Waco relate to the alien invasion? I thought that was a
Okay.
different cult.
I don't know what the date is. I could go find it out real quick. This is tape about 112. This is Mr. Steve Schneider, who is basically David Koresh's right-hand man. And I picked this part because it's not David. There's no real talk about the SEALs or anything like that. This is just this is what's going on.
That's Heaven's Gate territory.
Yes, but that's the thing that's so scary about this whole situation is it's almost like they don't want you. They cover up the parts that are Heaven Gate-ish. Most time that there's a cult that's like a UFO cult, that's the first headline. And the only reason I know this is because I watched the Waco series, and I knew that the actor who played David Koresh was also John Carter from the 2013 John Carter. And so I investigated Waco to prove that there were UFOs involved just because of those two medias being synced together. Does that make sense? Okay. So this is John. It would be the FBI guy. And it's talking about how this thing is traveling at 1,800 kilometers a second. They're talking about a star and a newspaper article, because they understand by this point that he's talking about space and stuff. And Steve goes, wow, I would appreciate that, talking about sending the article in. There's already named it the Guitar Nebula. Okay, this is them talking about a thing that comes out being this fastest star moving ever in 1993 called the Guitar Nebula. And they're tying that back to all the space stuff and the fact that David Koresh was a rock star, just like Mother Goose and Valis. It says, I think that would really lift David up. I'd wake him up for sure for that, because David's asleep at this point. He says, because he's into hot licks. They talk about him being all
Hot licks.
Hot licks. He's an awesome guitarist. The whole message with strings, instruments is all through the prophecies talked about John. All of them do. It's called Shagagan. That's like a hymnal to God. It shows up in the Psalms and it shows up in the prophets. And says, okay, he would something lift him up, blah, blah, blah. Physically, he's shot in the stomach. David's like passing out for 3 days at this point. This is not mentally or spiritually. All the prophets talk about one day how God gets off of his throne and comes down. You can look it up in the book of the Bible. It's in Ecclesiastes 12, Psalms, Daniel 12. It talks about God getting up off his throne, the throne of judgment, and coming down. And this is what he's talking about. He said that God showed him. God hasn't told him anything, but wait, he's showing a picture of seeing God getting off the throne. There being a lot of activity in the heavens. And he says, you tell these guys to watch the heavens. They're going to see a lot more taking place. Now, this is perfect, like blue beam shit, right? They're not going to believe it. They're going to count it as, and he says something he's been looking for, huh? And he says they're going to consider it a coincidence. And having recorded talking about it being seen as a coincidence too, because they watched movies in the same way that we talk about movies in sync. The people that were inside of the Branch Davidians were looking at movies and they were seeing stuff like Cocoon. Cocoon, could we watch the preview for Cocoon? Is that
I wonder
possible?
if we could get away with it. I could put it up. I mean,
Yeah.
Is it worth it if we get in?
Yeah, I think so, because if you look at it with sync eyes, you can see all of the things that they're talking about aliens, and they're talking about heaven, and they're talking about like taking off your human form. They call it clay, the Branch Davidians do. But there's also like little weird syncs, like the boys wearing the rainbow shirt.
Wow, it was loud.
From the farthest corner of a distant galaxy and the deepest feelings of the human soul comes a fantasy to fill your heart.
You guys all seen this movie? You guys know what Cocoon is?
I love Swimming Men.
Dude, Cocoon's about like old people that are connected to a symbiotic alien race at a Florida old folks home, basically, and they become immortal.
I feel tremendous.
Me
I'm
too.
ready to take all the
The
world.
living waters. Living
They're-
waters is what the Branch Davidians would have. I don't have them saying it, but that's what they would have associated that with in the Bible.
They're baptized essentially by swimming in this like old folks home pool in where there's a cocoon from these aliens, and then the aliens make them healthier. Like these old people that are on their way to die are all of a sudden feeling as good as they did when they were 26, right?
It is everything you've dreamed of. It is nothing you expect.
And their families don't care about them. They're old. They're waiting for them to die. They just think of their parents as like weak and useless. And all of a sudden they have meaning in their lives because they're going to go to the great beyond, to the next kingdom in the sky.
Keep a secret. I won't tell anybody.
It's hard to know who to trust.
It is the mystery of an awesome secret. It is the miracle of everlasting life.
We'll never be sick. We won't get any older, and we won't ever die.
Beyond the innocence of youth and the wisdom of age lies the wonder of Cocoon. 20th Century Fox presents the new
And David's the boy from Neverending Story, right?
He's the boy from Neverending Story, which is basically the same thing. Like,
And he's like, I'm afraid I can't let you do that, Dave. Right? Because it's Dave from 2001: A Space Odyssey.
yeah,
Is the boy, the Star Child.
So David was going to the library and checking out movies that basically backed what he was saying. But you can see it it's sync. It's what we see as sync. And he said it had something to do with his life experiences.
Well,
they view it as being done by the devil. They're real strong. Like even the survivor, all of the survivors know what I'm talking about. When I go to them and talk to them about the movies, they're like, I know about the movies, but they're so secretive that they won't say anything.
Well, as a concluder, I would say like if something in between entities or God or all these aliens actually showing up, I think they would, but most likely they're gonna like emerge through people. Like suddenly you're gonna see people do unbelievable things, like unbelievably terrible things and unbelievably amazing things. And then, you're going to ask these people, how did you do that? It's like, well, my life started getting a little different once I started believing in God, or my life started getting a little different once I started praying to this satanic, praying with the satanic cult and doing some rituals. Like, I think it's going to happen through people. That's what I kind of already see happening a little bit, especially now that we live in times where like average people are being so enabled technologically, I guess, like information wise. So I mean, if there is some kind of like second coming, I think it's going to be like people deciding to just be vessels for, the teachings of Christ and stuff like that. And maybe the opposite is true on the other side of the spectrum. People are going to like be full on vessels for like reptilian entities. And maybe that's really what it's about. Like becoming the vessel as just a human form for higher things.
Or Jesus is the lizard, bro.
Maybe.
The Lizard King.
Either way, it's like something in between us as humans and then the almighty source. There's like things that are higher than us that just kind of use us, use us as pieces to play their, I guess, higher dimensional game. War, maybe.
You could technically even say anything in the spiritual plane is extraterrestrial because it's not of land or matter, or it's all. So those forces could definitely be at play too, manifesting themselves through us, like you were saying. Even just the idea of an archetype or ideas themselves find ways to materialize just by existing. It's like
as within, so without, as above, so below. It's like your beliefs really do manifest physically, whether on your body or your surroundings, like maybe your habits turn into your beliefs about yourself. Like you just become like a gambling addict, an alcoholic, and that shows up in different various ways.
I think Cocoon makes an interesting point by trying, like, on one hand, you could say they're just making things more palatable because they're not religious. It's a very religious movie. Clearly, it's about baptism and about going to heaven, right? There's these old people that are going to die and they're going to go to heaven. And instead, you have aliens instead of angels are giving them instead of, usually with the abduction stories at the time where aliens are torturing people and doing horrible things, these aliens are giving a boon to them and making them healthier. But more than that, it's giving them everything that heaven is, right, in a scientific way, because they're going to be young forever. They're never going to be hungry ever again.
Do you think that they were just copying ET? I mean, it feels like after 1977, again, we were just talking about the wow signal, but after 1970, because in the 70s, everybody in the counterculture was having this experience of hearing voices in their head and associating it to extraterrestrials or an alien.
Downloads, spiritual downloads.
Timothy Leary, Jonathan Lilly, it's the Robert Anton Wilson, it's the Philip K. Dick, it's a huge packet of these fools who said that they were talking. It's pretty much like the same thing that happened back in the theosophy, or you get what I'm saying, the Victorian age, where everybody thought that it was going to be the Messiah coming back. In the 70s, it was all the aliens are coming back, and then this turning point of like it becoming a script, so to speak. Like all of a sudden, after Star Wars, you could write mythology or write religion into these scripts, and you have like an immediate response from the public and like box office returns, right? But it's just like Cocoon, or it's E.T., or it's like the Indiana Jones and its religious overtones. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, have you ever heard the concept of the monomyth? How like every story essentially follows a very similar pattern of transformation. Because that's really what makes a story. You want to see the character transform in some, whether it's for the better or worse isn't really relevant. It's you want to see the process of change happen through like experience and all that jazz. I mean, they say like when you dream of going through traumatic events and you actually go through the traumatic event, they say you're more like mentally prepared for it. It doesn't affect you as adversely as it would if you never had that dream in the first place.
If there are entities that people are interacting with, and I think I agree with Kurt that it's not something that will just happen for the first time in a few moments. It's something that's probably been going on forever, since our very beginning. And if we do have a awareness of entities or alien beings at something like that, maybe it's because we're so close to the end of time and the end of the singularity, or the beginning of the singularity, which is very much what the biblical Armageddon is supposed to be anyway. That the end of days, you will walk with God and angels will come down, and there will be, some sort of a catastrophic war where people are up to their knees in blood and everything. It's not going to be pretty necessarily, but also everything is possible at that point. Magic becomes real. People fly.
One of the fun thought experiments I have is I ask, like, if everyone could be happy or sad at will using just your thoughts, which is technically possible, but I'm saying if it was more present, if it was more poignant than ever in our civilization, what would the world look like? And I think it would just be psychic battles. It's like if everyone has full mastery over their own emotional, mental, and bodily state, that is kind of like a singularity point where it could end up in crazy psychic warfare.
Kurt, are you afraid of crazy psychic warfare?
Bring it on.
Like, whoops, I accidentally dropped a nuke on you, but it's all good. We could all get over it, right?
Yeah, I mean, if it's non-linear, you don't have any causal trouble or any consequences. So you could reshift it.
This is what I don't know. This is why I always go back to like inner harmony. Just try to keep stable harmony between mind, body, and soul, especially as like things get more psychic and weird, as Terrence McKenna would put it.
All right. Well, okay. And then Kurt, is there anything that you've been thinking about this week? Because I feel like I never let you share anymore. And don't you want to tell us about like communist economic theory or the psychology of cats?
Oh, freaking commies. This cat's a good one. This guy's a good one. That's the best I can report there. All right, so Trump is building his new ballroom to the White House, and so
Yeah.
that's all right. So it's one
Gonna
of
have
those
the
things.
biggest balls in any room, so he has to have.
Exactly. All right, so I try not to care much about current events. Not hopefully not because I'm too cool. It should be just because current events come and go. It's like it has very little to do with your spirituality. You know what I mean? So, but it is kind of fun to talk about certain things sometimes, I guess. So, like with the ballroom, it's like what is the idea? And so behind the Trump administration, like obviously there's a lot to criticize, and I try to be unbiased. Politics is just a dirty game. You can really, it's like anytime you jump in the mud, you're gonna get dirty. That's how it goes. That's how I feel spiritually. It's like, well, you just can't play in the mud too much, because that'll drag down your soul. But the ballroom is kind of interesting in a way because like what is the goal, and is he playing to the elites of our own country? Is that going to make them more disengaged from the realities of everyday lives of Americans, with this extravagance? Is it going to be decadence? And of course, if you follow the Nietzschean definition of decadence, it isn't a great word. It's like, ooh, that's corrosive. It's in some ways it doesn't look that great, but is the strategy of the ballroom going to be like international strategies? Like, is he going to invite other world leaders to participate in social events?
He's gonna have DJs for sure. He's gonna have DJ Pauly D dropping bangers, banger after banger.
Fucking ballroom, and you ain't in it.
Yeah, if you go to other countries, what is the best part about going to other countries? For a lot of people, I think what is
The ball.
Well, I think
waltzing in Austria at the ball, probably.
Well,
Details.
yeah. I think a lot of
nice.
people like checking out the architecture, like the
Like
centuries
I'm
old
getting Beauty and the Beast
architecture.
vibes.
Yeah.
The camera just twirling around Trump in the ballroom.
Yeah. So
Is
if the ball
it as
well
simple
done,
as it? Is it as simple as just that? That's what he's good at, and he just wants to get back to something he's good at again. He's like, look, let me just build a hotel or something. Like, I know how to do that. I'm gonna build the best ballroom.
Because he can't build pyramids. This is the next best thing.
It's like when a
He wants
father
he
starts
wants
making
legacy
shelves
after legacy, or is it just distraction? I mean, is he just doing the things that he knows will like totally get ratings on the trends and just disrupt all of the important things that we should be like focused on as far as Trump's concerned?
or is it just that it's the Antichrist building the room to Baal, right? It's the Baal's room.
It will be in an obelisk shape then. I mean, if it wanted to tap into any of the global energy to exploit.
It looks actually like the Temple of Apollo, although it's going to have a ceiling, but I've heard there's going to be lights in the ceiling as well. So it will look bright when you stare upwards. So, I mean, the shape of it is like the Apollo tabernacle, which means it could be used for all sorts of ritual purposes. Sorry, Kurt, you had more thoughts on this. We just spiraled out.
I think so. In some ways, I think the Trump administration, like most other politicians, they are kind of burying their head in the sand about things like class inequality. Class inequality. I think in many cases, it's like, well, we have to address that elephant in the room at some point, eventually. But I do think there is another aspect of, well, we feel like the empire's dying. Like, is there anything we can do to keep? I'll call it empirical dominance. I don't even know if empirical is the right word, but can we
imperial dominance, or just
imperial dominance? There we go.
Or do you mean empire, or do you mean like observable dominance?
Empire.
Okay,
Well, both.
Imperial.
Yeah.
Observer, empirical imperial dominance.
There we
Okay.
go. There we go. Yeah, we're trying to maintain imperial dominance, and I do think some of the things that they do actually makes a lot of sense when it comes to maintaining imperial dominance. So I think the ballroom does kind of work its way into that sort of idea.
So wait, you're saying Trump wants to walk across? He wants to Warhammer across the ballroom 40,000ly, essentially.
Kind of.
The ballroom is built in the East Wing. The East Wing used to be where the First Lady would do a lot of her things.
Wow,
you know?
well, how petty. He got rid of her little wing.
Or
patriarchy.
Or he's building the temple of freaking Apollo for the Vestal Virgin, right? Like, so Melania will now have her own temple.
Oh shit. The Temple of Melania.
Yeah, and like
The
it's
final
also
boss level.
I don't know how big of a deal this is, but I just have to imagine that every single square centimeter of the White House is filled with bugs centuries old, right? There must be so many, not just insects, I mean like surveillance systems that are spying on everything being said by any administration. And so here's a way that he can know exactly what's going into one room or another room or something. He's felt really uncomfortable at the White House always and constantly try to do his business as much as possible.
In Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, a place he knows he is safe, or that is
it's his turf.
It's his turf, right? And the White House isn't really his turf, but now it is becoming his turf.
Yeah, he took a big old dump on it. He's like, this is my land. This is my house now.
A golden dump, right?
I mean, in the year 2000, say 150, do you expect the White House to be more like run down, or do you expect to just be like expanded into a giant?
The White House is run down. That was what we realized with Trump when he first got there in 2016, 2017. He's like, wow, this place is it's a shithole, he said, I think.
Man.
Because
you gotta take in the vibes though.
It's an old building with termite damage, right? And like it's just been
Beauty and the Beast, bro. It is. It's totally Beauty and the Beast. He gets there, the whole place is like dust and everything, and he's like, "Stay out of the West Wing."
Yeah, something like that.
I told you to stay out of the West Wing, Bell. And then like he gives her the library or whatever. That's like Bell's library, the ballroom.
It's romantic. But do you think it's just about imperial dominance, or what else are you're seeing about it, Kurt?
I think that's the main idea. I mean, of course, it's Trump, so a small percentage of it is like, I get to have a good time with my buddies. But I do think, that in this case, like that's not the main idea. Like, obviously, he's into extravagance, but sometimes that extravagance is at least a little bit strategic, and I think most people are willing to acknowledge that. This isn't to comment on his character, say like, oh, he's going to heaven when he dies. I'm just saying, you know, I think people will acknowledge that.
He's gonna have the likes of Tom Cruise, Taylor Swift, Peyton Manning hanging out at that ballroom.
Bruce.
Actually, all right, so here's another aspect. I think this thing, obviously, like no president is going to get elected and say, well, my first order of business is to tear down the ballroom. Like, no, that's not what's going to happen. Future presidents are probably going to utilize this. And so, like, I think this is why you haven't seen a lot of pushback from the Democratic side of things on this issue, because like they know that people are going to use the F out of this ballroom in the future.
Yeah, my question was, the White House didn't have a ballroom already, or is he just like taking down the old one to put up a new one?
It's a small place. The White House isn't that impressive.
I figured.
They have other places to do those things on Capitol Hill. And so
yeah, meanwhile, you go to some like oil sheik's mansion. It's like, this is a lot bigger than the White House, dude. They got like 10 indoor pools. Like,
I honestly think that like the biggest change isn't the ballroom, but it's the atmosphere and climate of DC in general. DC has become, I'm almost ready to call it like safe. It's a safer place than it was a year ago, for sure. 5 years ago. There's less crime. People are afraid to commit crime. People are angry about that, but generally there's a lot of, police state authoritarianism there, which if you were by the White House, walking by the White House 10 years ago, 5 years ago, it was pretty dangerous to do, and you could get killed. You wouldn't always. It's not like the end of the world. You could, though. No, like you could easily get. I mean, people were killing each other for parking spaces when I was living in DC because of
DC.
this. When the snow hits and it's cold and someone's digging out a space,
Yeah.
and like you're gonna take their space, people will kill you over that. Like things were pretty crazy, and I think that is changing right now because Trump just won't allow it. He's seen enough dictators in other countries that won't allow for crime. You know,
Monkey business.
they just don't
Nonsense.
allow it, right? Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
they're intolerant. And so it's not hard to do. You just have to force your hand on everyone violently and terrifyingly and have police everywhere and soldiers everywhere, which is not the way DC was a few years ago.
I mean, how would you do it? Would you be like, I'll give you like all $500 if you just be good?
DC? What would you do to clean up DC?
I'm just saying, because like that seems to be such a common tactic
that's
used
what
by like
for.
mayors.
It's for the aliens.
So like DC used to be a place where, you know, because of the danger, you could get away with a lot. You know, there's underground walkways there. Like if you're in the State Department, then DC is a place where there's so much crime and problems and gangs and everything else, crack and everything, and PCP, that you can pretty much do. Like the State Department can do anything. Like they could at that point. But if DC gets super cleaned up, it's actually going to be harder for them to just do anything because then you stick out. It's like being a crumb in a clean kitchen. The more pristine it is, you're more likely to notice it. So I think it also, when they talk about draining the swamp and everything, cleaning it up of just average citizen crime, that's the first step in order to clean up actually the elite crimes that are going on. And maybe that's part of the idea of the ballroom. I think that's a big part of it also, is just it's going to be a place for making deals or for people that want to socialize. And to, you know, to do that, it's going to require them having a new lease on like America, right?
Well, it could generate a lot of revenue. I mean, even like those events where certain members of the house have to show up and like, you know, eat dinner with them. Like people pay like a lot of money for a seat, don't they?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
$20,000, right?
Jesus Christ.
Or more. But like it could also just be a good place to do eyes wide shut parties, right? Like
hell yeah.
It's
Tom
weird.
Cruise, you're invited.
It's weird how few of those parties they can have at the White House because they just don't have the space, right? And so
He's building the fourth temple.
Well,
I feel like in this case, like with the eyes wide shut stuff, like Scientology was like an earnest effort for Hollywood to try to become like, to try to gain some like Illuminati type chops, some Masonic chops, but you know, just maybe they just,
I think they were doing good up until like the last 10 years. Like Miscavige has kind of lost control of the, you know, their, after the Snow White operation where they infiltrated the CIA and they were like, look, here's pictures of you doing this and that, like basically spying on the CIA.
leveraging.
The way the CIA
They were playing the game. Yeah.
I feel like the CIA never really forgave them for that and has constantly, slowly but surely been working to destroy the Church of Scientology. That seems plausible. That's why Anonymous decided to pick them. You know, I think it has a lot to do with that. But
you think you get a seat at the table, dog? Nah, get out of here.
Yeah, I feel like the CIA has been like removing seats at the table. It's been a musical chairs game, and Trump's really kind of helped with that. Like more and more, there's less chairs, and it's going to be that way going on. There's going to be fewer and fewer people that rise to the top of the poll as madmen push them up.
Interesting times.
Well, okay. Is there anything you guys want to cover before we go? Anything else, Kurt? Or
gonna say at least part of the footage for the moon landing was faked. Yeah, at least some of the footage. Just saying.
Dude, I keep talking to kids that are so young, and it's like the general consensus that a 12-year-old has these days is A, the moon landing is fake, and B, they're waiting for everyone who saw it to die so they can just tell everyone. And they're just the kids are growing up knowing that, but we're just not supposed to say anything to mom and dad because, you know,
you think
they're soft. They won't be able to handle it.
You think people been in space stations though? Like that shit's happened, right? We are spacefaring as far as like people being in space.
God, I don't even freaking know, but I'll tell you this:
nobody can get to the moon, right?
Earth Earth's a space station, right? And then Solomon seals are space ships, and folds. I think the idea of space is interesting, the nothingness, because what that kind of means is that in between this point in space and the furthest flung point in space, there's nothing in between. That's what space is nothing. So there's nothing in between the furthest distances. And I feel like a bunch of what we're told is space is a metaphor for something that's literally true about flatland and about the hyperverse or the multiverse, probably the hyperverse, right? That there's quantum folds of entanglement that connect everything, and we're just supposed to be calm about that by having space. It's like it's just so far away, right? Because there's all this nothing in between. So there's so much nothing. Like there's a billion to the power of a billion of zero. So it's still one or zero. It's like the only way that they can handle or rationalize that there's so much going on is to say, well, there's this other thing there. But also space is a perfect metaphor because, like we said, you've got angels and demons, you have the darkness, you have the light. It's a scientific objective, trust the science, believe in the science kind of faith. And it disrupts the narrative that we've been warned about, because we weren't just told that there are extraterrestrials. We were told that there are angels on our side and then demons that are working against humanity itself, right? Through us. And so if you can get people to forget that part, they'll be far more open to aliens, because they won't have the fear of demons that so many people have, which might be like a good thing. I don't think we always need to be filled with the fear porn of thousands of generations of fears of demons, but I don't know. I think that that's the reason why they introduced the dark forest hypothesis for extraterrestrial believers, so that they can think, well, it might not be ET. There might be something out there that wants to get you.
We can talk about this for a second, because isn't the dark forest guy the same one who did the third body problem or whatever?
Three body problem, that Chinese guy.
Yeah, he's a Chinese guy. But if you look at the third body problem, like there's a lot of God being extraterrestrial overtones. Like there's this whole cult of individuals who are like calling God or calling the aliens my lord. They're driving around on a boat called the Judgment Day. Like they're in the little atoms that the aliens use are like the little spinning wheels within wheels that are by God's throne and shit in Revelations. Like it's heavy laden intentionally with like Christian symbolism, but it's written by a Chinese scientist, right? Like, how does that one work?
I think okay, so there's when it comes to creative, I don't talk to artists a lot, but I imagine like there's some artists that operate at a higher, whether it's music or whatever, they operate kind of at a higher dimension where they're looking at patterns, right? So artists or maybe movie producers will read the Bible, for example, and then they may not like rip directly or make an actual depiction from it, but they'll be able to see that, cross-reference it with other religious scripture, and they'll be like, hey, there's similar patterns here. And then all they have to do is just take out all the characterization of that scripture and just plant their own story, plant their own characters, and it's still going to work as a really good fucking story. And it's not because it's necessarily all original from you. It's because you figured out how effective storytelling works through the stories that were passed down the longest, especially the religious ones, because they're world changing essentially. So if you could tap into that world changing power, you just swap out the pieces for your own shit. And I think that's how like maybe that's what the cultish, the Illuminati movie guys, maybe that's what they understood, and that's how they like influence us in a lot of ways so effectively.
Convincing people to believe something that's not real means that every time any piece of information comes out that debunks what they believe, they will have to return, either face reality or return back to the source of the false information so they can be reaffirmed. So it puts you in a very particular circumstance where you're afraid of finding out more truth, and you're constantly forced to go back to the source of your false reality so you can constantly be reminded why, or things that will make you believe that. I think that's definitely the way most people operate. Most people are not looking to debunk their hubris. They're just trying desperately to not lose their faith in their reality. And that's not very different than religion, right? That's essentially it's the same method, the same strategy.
Yeah, the only antidote is A, curiosity, and B, creativity. Like everyday human curiosity.
Bless you. Well, all right. Will, is there anything else you wanted to point out before we jump?
I'm good.
That's good.
I'm good. Thank you, sir.
What about you, Chris?
I just want to say thank you to everyone watching. Thank you to showing up on the panel. And I will say I'm gonna try as a person to meditate more on compassion, to consider compassion more, to try to integrate that into my code. Compassion.
Compassion's good.
Because like I've noticed like that's probably why I'm so abrasive in certain contexts. Like on screen with you guys, I don't really need compassion. I don't really need to feel the need to pity you or feel sorry or to help, because you guys seem pretty solid on your own. But in other contexts, I might come off as like cruel or whatever, because I am kind of lacking in compassion, as grateful as I am. So I'll try to work on that.
Yeah, I often wonder about like that's a big thing that Neuralink could do, because people talked early on about jumping consciousness, and we talk about light beings having new bodies, etc. That if you were to put your memories into another body, perhaps like a young girl or something, would your body have hormonal emotional responses to your memories that they're not capable of really handling those feelings and thoughts that you have, and vice versa? If you took someone else and put their life in your body, would your emotional process change the way they feel about their traumatic experiences? Because you might have built yourself epigenetically to respond somewhat sociopathically so that you don't, so you don't break and that you're able to function.
Yep.
And I think it might be useful also to imagine going through what other people have to feel, right? Compassion. I agree with that.
I'm gonna try.
Cool.
I'll try it out. It's my next great endeavor. First was gratitude. That took a while, and then next I'm gonna try compassion.
Son of gratitude, compassion goes west. Okay, the sequel.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's based. I'm glad that we did this. It's kind of early for me, so I'm gonna toy with the idea of talking about doing these like in the evenings. But I don't know how Kurt feels. I see Kurt more if it's earlier. I don't think he wants to admit that, but I think it's true.
It's part of it's a work schedule.
Yeah.
I'm very close, so it's like student loan interest is not going to compound on me anymore. So yeah, that's what living in a trailer for 3 years will get you.
They better damn well ban. Like, what's going to happen is they're going to cut all student debt as soon as you pay yours off. I just feel it. I'm sorry to tell you.
As soon as you get arrested for weed, that's when they legalized it.
Yeah. It rains because you have no umbrella. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, like, I think everything, not to diverge in a new topic, but I think everything is so rooted in classism, and part of the whole student loan thing is legitimately rooted in classism. Like, they want people under the influence of compound interest over time. They want that weighing them down. They want that feeling of desperation. That's kind of the society that we live in. So, honestly, like, if they're going to cap student loan interest someday, like, it's... I personally wouldn't hold my breath on that thing. It's not going to happen because that corrosive financial force, or that mentality of wanting to be predatory on people, even if it doesn't really benefit the government that much. I think it's very, very deeply rooted at this point, and it's going to take a long time to uproot that mentality. So the best thing you can do is just not do that, not go to school. And it's depressing because it's like, well, people aren't really taking that advice of like, don't get secondary education. It is not worth it. And people are still doing it, and people are taking in more debt than ever in this generation in order to do it. So I don't know. You try to tell people what's up, and you can only hope they listen. It is what it is.
I keep seeing data though that shows that they might be like part of the immigration issue might be that they're trying to get rid of as many people that they have to give social services to as possible before they give UBI to American citizens. If UBI hit all American citizens, then you wouldn't want to give it to illegal immigrants, basically. So it's just setting up to do that so that these hyper elite corporatists, the Ayn Randists who are building their slave states, are able to have, you know, a subsidy to avoid the workforce, the units of labor that are no longer practical. I mean, that could be, I don't know, it's an optimism I have. Could be wrong though. We'll see. Cool. All right. Love you guys. See you next time. Peace.
There's philosophy names.